Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Why do you wear that?
You think it's weird?
Kinda.
Well, normal faces are weird too, you know? The way they're smooth, 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 and then, you know, all bumpy and holes. I mean, what are eyes like? It's like a science fiction movie. Don't get me started on lips. Like the edges of a very serious wound.
That's true. But your head is still sort of intimidating.
Well, underneath, I'm giving you a welcoming smile. Would it help if I said my facial expressions out loud?
Well, maybe.
Welcoming smile.
Delighted look.
That was a clip from Frank, and I'm delighted to say we've been joined by its star, Michael Fassbender. Michael, hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Very nice to have you on the show. I think the last time you were on, we were talking Mr. Rochester and we were talking Jane Eyre around about 2011. Would that sound about right?
That's right, yeah. I was in the studio, the podcast thing as well. I was there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Don't you film in the studio?
What have you been? You haven't really done much since then. You sort of dropped off our radar.
I know, yeah. I joined the circus.
Yeah. It's all kind of gone a bit bad for you, really. No one wants you to be in anything.
I know. That's why this is me coming back. It's a slow thing, and I start with the mask on.
I would just like to point out at this point that I think it was since then Michael has become one of a very select group of people to become the winner of not one but two Kermode Awards for Best Actor. And I can't think of anybody else who's done that. Two Kermode Awards for Best Actor. Do you still have those awards, Michael? I hope they're a pride of your place in your house.
I do, of course. I have them in the bathroom, center cistern.
Very good.
Yeah, with a couple of toilet rolls over most of it. So let's talk about the movie that you're actually here to talk about. You've alluded to it already, Michael. Tell us about Frank.
Okay. Well, it's a story about. Well, it's basically Donald Gleason's character, John. We follow him. He's an aspiring keyboard player or musician. And he comes across a sort of misfit group of musicians, American band that have, their keyboard players tried to commit suicide, and so he promptly joins, and it's his adventures with this group and their sort of mysterious front man by the name of Frank, who wears a mask.
Okay, so just and this is you. Just explain.
Actually, a fake head.
Yeah, explain your fake head then.
It's big. And it's round, and I think it can be quite charming at times, and then quite sinister other times.
So this will be a head familiar to many people who remember Frank Sidebottom, but it isn't. Yeah. It kind of is Frank Sidebottom, but it isn't. It's sort of a composite. So just to explain the connection with Frank Sidebottom.
Well, I think it's first and foremost, it's pretty much the same head as the character Frank Sidebottom. Worn by Chris Seavey, and I think it's also got elements of that character in there, but then it's an amalgamation of so many other things as well. You know, Captain Beefheart, all sorts of strange and mysterious sort of characters really wrapped into one. But the main thing about the Frank Sidebottom thing is really just the look and elements of the character, but it's an American character, an American band in this.
You don't do the Frank Sidebottom voice?
No, it's more like Daniel Johnston. He was a real major influence for me for this character, and you know we were dealing with mental illness as well within the character, and so I found a good anchor in Daniel Johnston, the music and his frailty as well.
You are at a time we were talking about when you were Mr. Rochester, but everything has been extraordinary for you in the intervening years. You must have the pick of projects. Lots of people wanting you to be in their movies. Why did you pick Frank? Because it's an extraordinary choice, and in the words of the director, a very brave choice for you to make.
I don't really think so. I mean, I just read the script and it was unusual and original. I laughed out loud many times, and I found it touching as well. So it was an easy choice, and I'd seen Lenny's work, and such a great fan of him. So I made the decision immediately.
It's funny you say when you read the script that it laugh out loud. I years and years ago, back in the 1980s, I played a gig, a couple of gigs in Manchester, which I ended up playing with Frank Sidebottom, Chris Seavey, and on keyboards was John Ronson, whose, of course, memoir began this whole thing. And Frank Sidebottom was, I imagine everybody knows, but for those who don't, he was a kind of comedy character. He was saying like that. He had a clothes peg on his nose. And I went into the film knowing nothing about it other than that I'm a big fan of your work. I'm a huge fan of Lenny Abrams, and I think Adam and Paul is just a wonderful movie. I'm a big fan of John Ronson, but wondering how they were going to do a movie, based on that character. What I was most impressed by was that actually, although there are definitely comedic elements in it, it's a very moving story. It's a story in which the central character is, as you say, more Daniel Johnson, more Captain Beefheart. Certainly, the circumstances of their recording looks like the recording of Trout Mask Replica, but it's not. It's not that funny. It's not actually trying to be that funny. It's kind of in the same way as Adam and Paul. It's kind of existentially melancholic and wonderful. And I have to say, I loved it to pieces, but I didn't think it was predominantly funny.
Yeah, maybe I just like melancholy. No, I mean, I think that's why, for me, there was touching moments. And it's the comedy moments sort of within it. I mean, it's really like silly things, like the real slapstick moments, like when Maggie throws the stick at Don as he's running to the lake and punching Donald's character John in the face. It's just those little sort of moments that are sort of interspersed in it. After I laugh like that, then it's so much easier for me to go to perhaps something that's something more touching, to go to something that has tragic elements to it. And I found that throughout the script. As I say, as I read it, there was times where I just sort of was laughing out loud.
Is it far more of a challenge, Michael? I don't know, to act without the use of facial expressions. The face is so important in communicating everything. When you can't use that as a tool, does that make your job just more challenging, more difficult? How was it?
No, I thought the mask can become quite expressive, and by doing nothing, it can also sort of at times be speaking a lot. It's just a different thing. I mean, I did a little bit of it before, in drama school we touched on a little bit of commedia dell'arte, and you get to understand how certain masks dictate physicality and dictate a personality type. And then the mask becomes an extension of all of that. And so it's fun doing it. And naturally, by putting on a mask, there is a sort of liberation that comes with that. I don't know if you've ever experienced, going to a fancy dress party or Halloween and you're wearing a mask. There's, it gives you a sense of freedom and anonymity, and also I felt, it also sort of, it gives you a little bit sense more of mischief, and that kind of helped for the character very much.
Is your face acting anyway? I mean, can you actually switch it off?
How do you mean, in general?
Well, what I mean is when you're encased in this mask, we can't see, obviously, your facial expressions precisely as you've just described. But I wonder if we could see your face, would it be reacting to the dialogue and reacting to the story, or are you just looking blank?
I could be asleep.
Yeah, we don't even know it's you. I mean, we've only got your word for it.
Very often it's not me, to be honest. I was in my hotel room. But no, the same thing goes on. I'm for one part, I couldn't really see that much outside the head. Certainly nothing that was directly in front of me. I had sort of a bit of vision sort of to the periphery. But again, I found that at the beginning kind of claustrophobic and strange, but afterwards quite liberating, actually.
Can you tell us about playing the music? Because one of the interesting things about the film is that at the beginning, the music, the first time we see them on stage, it's catastrophic, everything falls apart. And then they go off to this sort of remote location to record, or actually to rehearse the album before they record a single note, which is very, very Captain Beefheart. But actually, the songs themselves, which involve Maggie Gyllenhaal playing the theremin and this sort of strange Farfisa keyboard sound, actually do develop into credible avant-garde songs. I take it you're all actually playing that stuff.
Yeah, we were lucky to have somebody in Stephen Rennicks that came up with all those songs, and with Lenny writing the lyrics, so that the songs were there for us, and then we could take them and kind of make them our own in a way, and we had the freedom to sort of play with them. And we also had 3 weeks prior to filming, 3 to 4 weeks, where we were rehearsing as a band. So that was very helpful.
And is she genuinely playing that theremin? Because the interesting thing about the theremin, and I speak incidentally as a terrible theremin player, the theremin was invented as something that was so simple that anyone could play it, and it turned out that it was so simple that almost no one in the world can play the theremin. It's incredibly hard.
Well, Maggie Gyllenhaal can.
She's a terrific actress anyway, and who knew that she could play the theremin? We're just looking at the contrast of the stuff that's coming from you, Michael. So we're talking about Frank, an extraordinary film, and then next we see you in X-Men: Days of Future Past, and Prometheus 2 starts production later this year. I mean, presumably this is the richness of your life now.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to be working consistently and to have some choice as well. So I'm touching wood. I feel very lucky.
Michael, we appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you very much indeed for your time, and all the best, sir.
Thanks, gentlemen.